Hi, let's talk about intuition, the secret language of the infinite intelligence. Hi, my name is Andrew Bozeman, Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. Now, intuition is a word that's been bandied about a lot. Some call it a hunch, some call it a voice that speaks to you internally. Uh, Sorry, I'm having interference here. So, some call it an inner voice, some call it communication from the angels, some call it an urge they can't explain, some call it a hunch. But whatever you call it, uh, or how you describe it or how it comes to you, intuition is actually a communication from infinite intelligence. It's there to give you guidance. Now today we'll talk about examples of intuition at work, and then tomorrow we're going to talk about how you can learn to trust and understand intuition and become more familiar with it so that you and intuition can function as one. Remember, please hit the thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, so please use the chat box or the comment section if you're replaying this. Okay, so let's go into intuition. Story. One night, the Australian filmmaker named Bill Bennett was on his way to the airport, and as he neared an intersection, he heard a voice tell him to slow down. He hesitated because the traffic signal ahead was green, and he was running a little late. So if he speeded up, he would be sure to make the green light. But the voice again said, slow down. This time he complied. He slowed down, and the light stayed green, so he was going to make it. But just as he entered the intersection, he heard a loud horn, and a large semi-trailer truck ran the red light and went speeding through the intersection. He's had to slam on his brakes and narrowly missed being run over by that speeding truck. But if he had not slowed down, as the voice had told him to do, he would have been in the middle of the intersection when that truck came through, and it would have smashed his car and definitely killed him because it would not have been able to stop. It was barrel heading out. That incident changed his life. That incident caused him to start a search to find out what that voice or where that voice came from that saved his life. That search resulted in him creating a film on intuition. The name of the film is called PGS, Personal Guidance System. PGS. It can be viewed online. There is a website, PGS, where you can view the film. Now, in the film, he interviews religious leaders, scientists, spiritual teachers, to try and define what intuition is. The definition for intuition that he came up with in the film was, intuition is a sudden, unexplained insight that comes unaided by logic, intellect, or expertise. One of the people he interviewed was a man named Lee Carroll. Lee Carroll is a channel for an entity known as Cryon. Now, Lee told the story of his car stopping on the highway as if it had run out of gas, except the gas gauge said he had gas. After several attempts, the car finally restarted and he continued on his drive. Within a very short distance, he came upon a major multiple car accident that had just happened. It had just happened. If his car had not stopped, he would have been in the middle of that accident. Now, I can recall several incidents where intuition intervened to help me. For instance, one night, I was driving home from work, and I had to it was a long distance from where I lived, and I had to travel through a rather sparsely populated area to get back to my neighborhood. As I approached the intersection, I got a very strong feeling of dread in my stomach. It was almost overwhelming. So, excuse me, it was almost as if someone were pointing a gun at me. So I turned off that street right away and drove a short block to the next street that was running parallel. As I was about to turn down the second street, two cars moving at very high speed came racing down the street where I would have crossed if I had stayed on course. And if I continued down the street that I was on, there would have been a nasty three-car accident with me in the middle of it. But intuition doesn't have to work in life and death situations only. It's actually there every day if we would just pay attention. Have you ever seen an item, for instance, an item sitting on the edge of a table or a counter and thought that if somebody doesn't move that, it's going to end up on the floor? Then within the next few minutes, someone rushes past it and accidentally knocks it on the floor. That's intuition. That warning knowingness was intuition at work. Last week, one of our viewing audience shared a story in which she was at the store where she was strongly urged to buy a bottle of salad dressing. She resisted because she knew she didn't need it. Only when she got home and made a salad, there was no dressing left for her to use. Please click on the thumbs up button below. And if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. Please use that chat box on the comments section below. I remember many years ago, before we had GPS on our phones, I was driving to a location in Los Angeles where I had never been before. Someone had given me the directions, had them on a piece of paper, but I was still very uncertain of where I was going. Then along the way, a car pulled in front of me to make a left-hand turn at a street with no street name sign. The voice in my head told me to follow that car. So I did. Several minutes later, that car pulled into the driveway right next to the address that I was trying to locate. Before the internet, I used to do a lot of research in books and printed publications. So I was often in the library searching for information to support my projects. On more than one occasion, I have reached for a book that I intended to take off the shelf, only to have my hand grab a different book. Then when I opened the book that I had taken down mistakenly, it fell open to the page that had the answer I was looking for. Intuition is with us all the time. Intuition. All we have to do is listen to it, but we have to learn to trust it. In 1988, I received an intuitive flash and a vision that I was being directed to start teaching classes on how to work with angels. How to work with angels. I hadn't heard of anybody teaching a class on how to work with angels. It wasn't something that I knew about, a lot about working with angels. But immediately after that day, when I got that flash, I began to come across books on angels. People started giving me gifts of books about angels. Gifts. And when they would give me the gifts, they would explain, they didn't know why, but they felt that it would be perfect for me to have this book. I would overhear conversations about angels. A few months later, there was a Whole Life Expo event, Whole Life Expo. And one of the main speakers of the Whole Life Expo that year was a woman named Dorothy McLean. Now, Dorothy McLean was one of the original founders of the Garden of Findhorn in Scotland. Now, Findhorn in Scotland was a community where spectacular fruits and vegetables were grown. They were cabbages that were huge and lush and rich, winning contests. It was amazing. But what was even more amazing was that the soil at the Fenhorn Garden was sandy. It was not a good soil to grow things in. They weren't supposed to grow there. But they grew there because Dorothy and her partners, who also helped her found Fenhorn, Eileen and Peter Caddy, were working with angels and divas who guided them on how to plant and how to cultivate their gardens. She then wrote a book. The name of the book was To Hear the Angels Sing. And in this book, she shared her experiences in working with the angels and the divas. So when I heard that she was at the Whole Life Expo as one of the featured speakers, I really wanted to see if I could get a chance to talk with her, even though I knew she was going to be surrounded by dozens of people. So I went to the Whole Life Expo and headed toward the section of the convention hall where the speakers appeared on stage. But as I walked there, I was guided by these urgings, these sensations in my chest and stomach, not to go there, but to take a left and go down a passage that seemed to be going in the wrong direction. And so I did that and turned again on the urgings and then turned again. And when I turned in that last corner, there she was. She was all alone in a quiet part of the building, just sitting there. So I was able to have a conversation with her for several minutes, uninterrupted. Now that's something I would not have been able to do if I had gone the same direction as everybody else was going. Intuition. That's what it was. Intuition. So what is intuition? How does intuition work? Can we depend on it? These are questions we will address tomorrow as we continue with the subject, Intuition, the Secret Language of Infinite Intelligence. In the meantime, please click on the thumbs up button below, and if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts and comments, especially about intuition. Have you ever had any situations or instances where you had this urging and you followed it, or if you had the urging and didn't follow it, but then later realized that you should have? I'd love to hear about it. So let's close with prayer. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together here in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are, As we open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being, we know that we are the children of God. We know that we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, because we are beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet, we are becoming channels of your power, infinite intelligence. We can feel your power within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your power within ours, we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise because we are no longer cut off by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, the pain of unforgiveness. But we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger and our lives more healthy, more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Please click on the thumbs up button. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. In the meantime, this is Andrew Bozeman, and you have been listening to On the Wings of Your Mind.